I'm here with Professor Gerard Sutton from Vision Eye Institute and the University of Sydney to talk about his time as a volunteer at the Sydney Olympic Games. Welcome, Professor Sutton. What made you decide to volunteer at the Sydney Olympic Games and how did it all come about?
Well, it was a long time ago, so 20 years since the Sydney 2000 Olympics, and I had just returned from overseas. I had been doing some fellowships in England and in Germany, and I was the chairman of the Young Ophthalmologists Forum, which was part of our College of Ophthalmology. And at that time, the president was Professor Frank Martin, who was a mentor and subsequently became a friend. And he had noted that at the Olympics there was only an optometry service and not an ophthalmology service. So he arranged for us to provide an ophthalmology service, which was necessary because the entire Olympics has every single specialty covered. In fact, the healthcare is one of the drawcards for cities that win the actual games, being able to provide a very broad health service that includes people from countries that are developing having access to some healthcare for the first time in their lives. And so Frank asked me whether I would do it, and I jumped at it. I'm very keen on sport. Like most Australians, love the Olympics, and it was a great opportunity, and I'm glad I did it.
What was your most memorable experience from the event?
Look, I think just being in the Olympic Village, mixing with all the athletes, it's quite a different space. You have people from all around the world, not just the athletes, but also the whole team around the athletes. And just being in that milieu and meeting people from different cultures, I think that was probably the thing that I'll remember most.
Were you looking forward to meet anyone? Did you meet someone you...
Yeah. I mean, I follow a lot of sport, and Inge de Bruin was the Dutch swimming champion, and she ended up having, I won't say what, but an eye issue, and so she had to come in, and I insisted on seeing her myself. We had a big team of ophthalmologists and optometrists who all got on well, but I thought it was important that I looked after Inge.
Okay. Which Olympic sport has a surprisingly high risk of eye injuries?
Look, we saw a number of injuries, but they mainly just sort of scratches, and contact sport is basically the biggest thing. People just having minor injuries. There were a couple of retinal detachments, a few orbital fractures from some of the basketball, gets a bit heavy, and a few other significant injuries. But mainly it's just the sort of thing you'd see in an accident emergency, just basic, simple things.
Mm-hmm. Lastly, are there any funny stories to tell? So obviously keeping in mind patient confidentiality.
Look, I have a couple of funny ones, but for me, the funniest one doesn't reflect particularly well on me, but towards the end of the games, what they had a doctor in all of the various centres. So at the velodrome in Sydney, one of my friends was the doctor in charge of the velodrome, and he was there on his own for most of the time. But on the last night, with the gold medal night, they had a race called the Kieran and the Madison, where there are a lot of cyclists on the track at once. And so he was instructed to find two other doctors to help him out in case there was a problem. And so he rang myself and one of our ear, nose and throat specialist friends and said, why don't you guys come and be the extra doctors? There'll be nothing to do, and you can just come and enjoy being in the velodrome in the centre. So I thought, you beauty. And so went out to the velodrome. I did have some concern that as an ophthalmologist, my general medical training might have been a little bit stale, but we got out there, and my friend, who I won't name, the ENT specialist, he and I just were taking photos of ourselves through most of the evening. But then in the gold medal race, there was this huge stack. I don't know if anyone remembers it, but there were like cyclist bodies all over the track, and so we had to go out there and attend to them. And I think one of my friends and my wife was watching the race, and then next thing they know, they saw me as an ophthalmologist on the track attending to someone's damaged legs, and so that was great. But I was on the track then when Australia won the gold medal, so that was memorable. But I think that was the end of my general medical career. I stuck to ophthalmology after that.
I'm glad you did. Well, thank you, Professor Sutton.
Thanks, Shishi.
Yep.